welcome to the Tech Files Dose of Common Sense. Common sense was so common, how come so few people have it? Welcome to the show. How y'all doing today? Alright, we got a lot of topics, so let's go ahead and get to them. So, first out of the gate, hello, we have OnePlus. OnePlus decided that, like most OEMs, they were going to update some of their applications through the Play Store instead of just sending over-the-air updates with security fixes, and they were going to improve their software. Well, they went about it the right way. It's just a couple of people over at OnePlus decided they were going to get overzealous, and well, let's just say this: the OnePlus launcher showed up in the Google Play Store. Now, let me give you the rest of the update. Here was a clue on that. Yeah, it was a little bit of an update. It's also a closed beta. So, of course, the update is now gone. But that's okay. I'm sure if you're interested in obtaining a copy of the OnePlus launcher, you can probably get one that's ripped from somewhere. So just keep looking out on Google. But from what I was looking at before they took everything down, it was pretty fantastic. Then again, if there's one thing that OnePlus don't really mess a whole lot with on the bad side, that would be launchers. So next up, we're starting to get a couple of leaks on a Samsung phone, and whether or not this went through Geekbench or EvLeaks got a hold of this, I'm not really able to get too much into it. However, for those of you interested, this Samsung phone happens to be a flip phone, and it has got the model number of SMG9298, which definitely comes right into line with the new flip phone that's been rumored for a little bit. Now, this flip phone that is going to carry Google, it's going to carry Android 6.0.1. Jesus, why? If you're going to put out a new phone, guys, just put out Nougat, okay? It's the most up-to-date software that we have, so let's just do that. No, they're not. Samsung's new Android-powered flip phone is going to have 4 gigs of RAM, 64 gigs of storage. According to the reports, it will carry a Snapdragon 821 on board, which is a fairly high-end SoC, especially for the looks of the phone that they're going to have here. So, the link to the story will be, of course, as always, in the show's description. Look for yourselves and tell me what you think. You can contact the program at show, SHOW, at TechFiles, that is TEKFILES, media, MEDIA.com. Any questions, comments, business inquiries, be more than happy to answer your questions over there. Now, for a little bit more fun, DoorDash. Now, I don't know how many of you have heard of DoorDash. For those of you who haven't, I'll go ahead and give you a quick description. DoorDash kind of resembles certain companies like Grubhub used to be, Uber Eats, companies like that. However, the app is very easy to use. Basically what you do is you go online, you hook up into the app, you give it your information, home address, telephone number, credit card information, and then you have a wide variety of places that DoorDash can go and get the food and bring it to you. Usually their delivery times that they quote are a whole lot less than what it takes, or actually a whole lot more that they quote is the time that they quote and the time they deliver. The time they deliver is usually a lot faster. So if anybody's curious and would like to try DoorDash out, this is by no means a sponsored post or an ad of any type, but given the fact that Engadget was writing this story, I thought I'd convey my personal experience. So go to either the Google Play Store or go to the iOS App Store and download DoorDash if it's available in your area. Those of us in the States probably have it. I'm going to take a wild guess that most international markets won't have this yet. But download DoorDash or go to DoorDash.com and it should direct you to where you need to be. They also have a Twitter handle at DoorDash. Like I said, I've used it and I've actually spent quite a bit of money on it. So it could be bad for those of us who have a budget. But DoorDash is a very good service. It's an awesome app. I would highly recommend it, especially if you want to go out somewhere to eat and you don't feel like cooking or driving. Hell, I wouldn't drive in the San Antonio traffic, please. At least on some nights of the week. But check out DoorDash on either Google Play Store or the iOS App Store. Go ahead and check them out. Let me know what you find. show@techfiles.com or send me a tweet at techfiles. Now, going from something that is awesome and terrific to something that maybe not so much. LG. You saw this one coming, did you? Remember the G6 Mini? Well, it's a G6 Mini. Apparently more ways than one. Not as bad as I thought it was going to be, but let me just give you a brief rundown here. Looks like 32 gigs of RAM, single camera sensor in the back, Android, actually that's not specified. It's unknown whether it's going to be running Marshmallow or Nougat. Let's just hope it's Nougat. And it will carry on board a Snapdragon 430. So, I hate to say I told you so, but I told you so. Once again, a company that unfortunately takes Mini quite literally. Hey, while we're at it, Roy, let's give it a Mini system on a chip, and let's give it Mini specs, and let's give it only a 5.3-inch screen, and let's take the resolution down to crap. Let's put it out as a LG G6 Mini, the Q6. Q is in cute. Of course it isn't cute. There are those of us who actually believe in the Sony philosophy of making a phone mini. You know, make a mini. Don't make it crappy, okay? So, I hate to say I told you so, but like I said, I pretty much just told you so. It ended up being LG was trying to make a mini phone, and then all of a sudden this happened. Yeah. Oh, do we need to put a top sensor in it? What? You mean Snapdragon 430? No, that didn't quite work that way. And there you go. So, there was that fun. Now, T-Mobile, for what seems to be the third Thursday in a row, has seemed to have lost partial service in the country again. At least the only thing that we're confirming is the United States had a short outage. And of course, Verizon wants to play Twitter fighting. Oh, our company's bigger than yours because your service keeps going out. Here's a translation, Verizon. Okay? If you're in a glass house, don't throw stones. You starting a Twitter fight and you wanting to punch down doesn't make you look good. Reason being, your customer service is garbage. Straighten up your customer service, straighten up these little Twitter fights, because your executives are better than that. I know they are. This is what happens when T-Mobile raises rates and they're still one of the best carriers around. So, opinions may vary. There's mine. Welcome to that world. So, next up. That's right. Facebook and Google. What? I mentioned both of them? Oh, well, okay. So anyway, Facebook and Google. Basically, what's going to happen with them is they're going to be working together over our wonderful FCC and their inability to figure out how in the world they're going to do net neutrality. Well, if they get their way, it's going to be neutered neutrality. That's pretty much what I think it is. Basically, I think net neutrality and the internet needs to be put under Title II. They need to be a utility. Because at this point, you can't get by without water. You can't get by without electricity. And this wasn't the case 10 or 12 years ago. You could have gotten by without a phone. Not anymore. With everything so integrated, it needs to start being handled like utilities. And I hate to say that. It probably really pains for some to hear that, but unfortunately it's the truth. And this is the only thing that I'm going to get on a political rant on for a second. We've been pushing net neutrality in the States for years. Because apparently everybody else in the world has their stuff together, and we're the only ones going, duh, I have no idea. Should I throttle somebody, or should I just let them go through? Well, okay, you want to make this as a land of equals, land of the free, home of the brave. Last time I checked, that was our motto. It isn't land of the people who have a lot of money, as opposed to land of the people that want a good value and are going to get screwed out of it by the Federal Communications Commission. Way to go, Trump administration. Way to go, Republican FCC. No. If you have any questions about this story, the link is in the description. If you want to do anything to help out, by all means, read the story and go with it. I know of a few people in the tech industry. Mainly, there's a couple at Pocket Now, there's a couple with Mobile Nations, and I'm sure they'll do whatever they can to assist as well. On top of which, net neutrality is one of Nilay Patel's babies. He's a big believer in it, and so am I. So, by all means, reach out to those news organizations, and if you would like to help in this day of protest, which I think it's going to be next week, what I used to do is just email them and ask them, hey, how can I help? And a lot of people are getting together right now. From last time I checked, and I'm just going to touch on a few here, you're looking at Google, Facebook, Amazon, Tesla, I'm sure XDA developers will be involved in it as well. So by all means, check that article out. You'll get a lot of information out of that. So we're going to go from something happy to, here we go. We're going to go to something that I like to call Clickbait City, okay? So bear with me for 1 second because I got to put Clickbait on here. Yeah, that's right. So, Jawbone is dead. They apparently spent themselves out. Now, I'm reading this article from Engadget, and they say Jawbone's demise will herald the end of the wearable industry. It's a little harsh, even for Engadget. I mean, they're really on clickbait. I honestly, I don't think the end of Jawbone is going to mark the end of anything, except for maybe the end of Jawbone. Jawbone took a very good product that came out in the 2000s, or the aughts, as some of us tend to call that anymore. And they had a very good Bluetooth device. They decided they were going to go into wearables, and it's just like with a lot of companies getting into that. They overspent, they underdelivered, and eventually they ended up paying for it. My only issue is, don't take the demise of one company and categorize that single story as the be-all and end-all of the end of the wireless and wearable industry. That's just BS. There are 15 companies like it that will probably be more than willing to take its place. Unfortunately, some of them are the big ones. Samsung, as usual. LG. Of course, Fitbit. If they can ever get their smartwatch crap off the ground. So, we'll see what happens on that. And speaking of clickbait, Engadget's 2 for 2 today. Engadget decided to write a story about Google's DeepMind OpenAI is going to assist to prevent a robot uprising. Now, I'm sorry, I'm just going to go on this for a second. For any of you people out there that are wearing a tinfoil hat and trying to get the signal Kenneth, it ain't going to happen. Okay, I cannot even begin to imagine Google developing AI that's going to eventually turn into Skynet, that is going to rain missiles down and kill us all. That's just bunk. So the next time you guys are in need of a story and you're looking for clickbaity articles that are kind of stupid, that really shouldn't have been written, because the subject's been covered, folks. This has been covered, and this has been talked about pretty much since Facebook did their conference last year. Facebook hired I think Regina Dugan, that used to be over at Google and Motorola, and before that she worked for the Defense Department. They got her in charge of that. So, let's not act like the people that we hired to do that, even though they work for the Defense Department. Let's try to act like the people that we hired to do that. Let's make the attempt. I don't know. It's a little tough for some of you guys. Let's make the attempt to act like they have morals and ethics, okay? I don't think Arnold Schwarzenegger is going to come by anytime soon and decide to kick all of our tails. I really don't. That is clickbait. So, I mean, if you want to look at it for a great laugh and just make you shake your head, hashtag stupid tech, there you go. There's my clickbait of the night. And of course, what would a good podcast be without OnePlus? Again, so OnePlus is about to come out with an OTA update that is supposed to work on, well, actually, they were supposed to come up with an update. At least they're still working on it. It's supposed to work on the jelly effect. Now, for those of you who haven't listened in a while, let's proceed what this is. All motions in Android OS have what's known as animations. Okay, so basically, it's like this. All animations have a way that you can fix them in developer settings. They go all the way to like 10 times. But if you really want to kill the jelly, quote unquote, the jelly effect, all you pretty much have to do is go to where you see the build number on the operating system. It's in settings. Tap that build number 7 times and you will have the developer menu wide open to you. That's the one place that Android doesn't mind us going to. I know that's where I didn't mind going to when I first started with cell phones anyway. So the long and the short of it is, go to the build, type that 7 times, and what you do after that is your developer options will be enabled. Go into the developer options menu, go down to where it says animation. There are 3 spots to where you can tell animations, okay? You can either cut it to 0.5 or you can turn off the animations. Now, normally a lot of people do this, especially power users, because it makes the phone run smoother. It hands-off operations smoother. It doesn't have to worry about a transition effect. Because personally, I believe transition effects in operating systems is like, it's smoke and mirrors that nobody needs, okay? So if you put the animations all the way down to 0, your jelly effect's pretty much going to end if you're one of those that have an extreme problem. And they should be able to take all of that for you. So once again, OnePlus is working on a software update to help with the jelly issue. So if your screen is jelly, don't be hating. Know that they're working on the problem. They're going to cure it as fast as they can. That way it doesn't do one of these. And by the way, that same thing will also work on. That's right. This should fix the audio as well. That way you don't hear that while you're in the middle of trying to do a recording. So trust me, the brainchilds at OnePlus are doing as best they can. So, to review once again, just really quick. OnePlus launcher appears in the Google Play Store for a short time because it's a closed beta. The Samsung foldable flip, powered by Android, is indicating imminent launch. 4 gigs of RAM, 64 gigs of onboard storage, and Android 6.0.1. I'm still kind of scratching my head on that. And that could be the one area that they might have messed up on. I don't see that one happening, but you never know. T-Mobile went down again briefly this morning. That's what happens when you're still better than Verizon and you kind of raise your rates. You're growing. It's called growing pains. In case you missed it, T-Mobile is in the process of opening probably what's going to be their 1,000th new store this year. And normally it takes them a full year to open not quite that many. And they're probably going to hit the 1,000th mark right at about the 10th of July. So they're opening them at a pretty good clip. So apparently somebody's doing something right. So Facebook and Google, amongst others, such as Amazon, probably The Verge, probably XDA developers, are participating in the net neutrality protest that's going to be scheduled for next week. So let's just say next week, if you try to go to some of your websites and you haven't followed up on this, and your website for some reason is not running, if you have any one of these applications or do business with these sites, I am more than positive they will send you a notice as to what's going on. That way they don't get angry customers coming back, which is good on them. The end of Jawbone does not herald the end of the wearable industry. That story is a bunch of bull. Along with the fact that Google's AI is going to be working to stop Skynet. Give me a break. That's what you'd call classic clickbait. That's what makes people hate websites that do nothing but clickbaity crap. And we had to find that one out the hard way. And OnePlus is going to try to fix the jelly in the translations. I hope that actually happens. But as for the rest, like I said, and I even know part of the origin, I think, where these stories came from. But if you look on Twitter, this might have been a discussion after it. I can tell you right now, Wired was the first one to hit with this, and then Engadget decided they were going to ratchet up the Skynet crap. No. Skynet, do me a favor. Skynet, there you go. Hey, why not? Engadget, if anybody was going to be classified as Skynet right now, look who owns you. It's called Verizon. They have a red logo with a great big check. So I hope y'all are not using their service to a certain extreme, because it might go out and you might start having to pay for overage fees again. I mean, after all, your parent company just came into reality. So we'll see. A couple of stories I haven't been able to touch on yet. Unfortunately, I don't have any straight out links for this. One would be Apple and the iPhone 8. The iPhone 8, as of right now, does not know if it's going to include Touch ID on the iPhone 8, whether it be front, back, under the display, or if it's going to have sensors to detect your face. Personally, if it does that, I'm going to kind of laugh a little bit and say, hey, if anybody remembers ice cream sandwich and lollipop, if you want to know how it works, that's how it works. If anybody at Apple wants to know how it really works, check out the Note 7. Well, if you have still a copy of the Note 7, or check the S8 or the S8 Plus. I'm sure they'll let you know into that. So, all right, guys, that concludes our news portion of the broadcast. And I actually, wouldn't you know it, I have some wonderful emails that I just got. Remember, I asked you what was your daily driver earlier and the amount of money that you ever paid for a smartphone bill. I've got one that I kind of want to laugh at, and I got one that I kind of want to go over, because, you know, I get these all the time. It's like, I just paid $750 for Verizon. No. That's not all that much. I paid a $1,300 bill with Verizon one time. And this was before they decided to come back with the reality and say, okay, we'll take the unlimited data. Which was amazing, because the second they decided to come back to reality and get the unlimited data, everybody, of course, followed suit. And I also got a weird email here, and they wanted to ask me, and it's a perfectly valid question, what is this about deprioritization? They said, I have an unlimited plan with T-Mobile. However, every time I go and pay the bill, I see the fact, and I also get messages to that fact as well, that after I cross a certain data threshold, I face deprioritization. They said, well, what does that mean? It would help me greatly if I knew that my data was going to be cut off. This way I know what phone company to actually go with. Well, first off, your data is not going to be cut off. It undergoes what's known as network deprioritization. And what that simply means is once you reach a certain threshold on data usage, you have crossed up into the top 3% of data users in your particular area. And that area could be as small as a cell tower. You could be the top 3 people that use the cell tower. And all that will simply mean is you are deprioritized. 9 times out of 10, you will never see this issue to the point of where you actually see this issue. The only thing it means is if they have emergency traffic that transports on the same towers that you are labeled on the top 3, that you might get put in a queue. And after the emergency traffic is cleared through the tower, your speeds will not change. I have extensively tested this over the last several months, and every network pretty much has the same thing. T-Mobile and Metro PCS, they went from 28 to 30 to 32. They are about the most tolerant when it comes to deprioritization. You have AT&T and Cricket. Last time I checked on that, and please, if somebody works there that hears me and wants to scream wrong, send me an email, show@techfiles.com. Last time I checked, it was still anywhere between 22 and 26 gigs. I'll be honest, the amount of data that I used before I have or had Wi-Fi network in my house again dwarfed that of even, shall we say, John Rettinger, Techno Buffalo, used something like 40-some gigs one month, and he actually made a post on Twitter, and, hey, how much data did you have to use here? And apparently what he didn't realize is I had just taken a screenshot of everything I had used to that month, and it was 108 gigs. And the only words I could hear was, wow. Yeah, so data is not cheap, and in this day and age, data is gonna take you a lot of places now. I don't foresee that changing anytime soon. And as a matter of fact, depending on T-Mobile's new rollout on unlicensed spectrum and new frequencies that they're working on actively. And the reason I know they're working on this actively is because there's a couple of new bands in the Galaxy S8, the S8 Plus. LG even has the band in their G6, and it's called Band 66, and I think there's a Band 65 in there as well. Don't quote me on that. However, everyone's working on their networks. So that little threshold keeps growing every single month, and it's because they're building out their networks. T-Mobile's building theirs out faster than most because, of course, they've almost put up 1,000 new stores this year. And like I said, they'll probably have that 1,000 store threshold crossed, I'd say no later than the 10th, 15th of July. Last time I checked, I think they were at 980 something. So T-Mobile's having a banner year. That's what happens when you have good customer service, I guess. By the way, we're not sponsored by T-Mobile in any way, shape, form, or fashion. I use T-Mobile service. That's how I know. And if anybody wants to get any more information than that, they can feel free and look up T-Mobile.com, and they can even check for themselves under network. And if you look at the right articles, it will tell you exactly how much network, how much spectrum. They can even tell you problem towers if you look close enough. So, to all these other carriers that are in glass houses and they want to throw stones the size of Pintos, just be careful. You're in a glass house, and there may very well be a hurricane coming your way, so just be careful what you wish for. You may very well end up getting it. So, kind of unfortunate. So, I bet everybody has been wondering this certain question, and probably not, but where did I come from? What am I doing here? What is my mission as far as this podcast goes? As far as I go. The only job that I know right now is cellular sales, smartphone sales, and tech advice and reviews. So, my mission for this particular podcast is very simple. My mission for the podcast is to make sure that no one is ever afraid to use their phone to the full potential. My mission of this podcast is to make everybody comfortable with any phone, no matter how complicated it seems to be. The very worst thing you can do to your phone is just if you get into something that you do not understand and you are not rooted, which is a whole other thing we'll cover later. If you get into trouble, all you need to do is hold the button down on the phone. Usually, on most models, if you hold the button down on the phone any more than about 30 seconds, the phone it'll simulate a battery pull. It'll turn off and turn back on. And you really haven't lost any data. It's a fail-safe. So, there's that. That's mission 1. Mission 2 is to give you my exact opinion of each and every smartphone or development in technology when it arrives. I'm going to give you my opinion. I'm going to give it to you unvarnished, and I'm not going to sugarcoat this. I'm sorry. I know there's some tech people that love to, well, it does this, and this might be a little bit bad, but it's okay if. No, I'm just going to give you this opinion on what I think of the piece of technology. I'm going to give you opinion. Does it suck? Does it not? Should have even been built? There's been quite a number of phones that fall under that category. If you ask me, the entire Zen line shouldn't have even been made. They should have probably killed the Pixel, or not the Pixel, but the Nexus probably a year or two before they did. So, once again, just an opinion, and opinions like a-holes. Everyone has them, and most of them stink. But you will get my opinion, for better or for worse. It's an informed opinion. I'm not specifically just talking out of my tail. And if you have any questions about it, feel free. Go through the XDA forums. We're not sponsored by anybody currently, so we are not pushing anybody's agenda. The only thing I'm to do is to get you all comfortable with smartphones as best as you possibly can. Remember, don't buy a phone because we say it's the best. Don't buy a phone because it has all the latest bells and whistles. Don't buy a phone because it's 3 times larger than your hand and you have the smallest hand in history. Get a phone that you're comfortable with. Get a phone that you know how to use. Get a phone that you know that will work for you and use it. No tweaking required. So anyway, to start where I came from on this. I owned a phone in 2008. Was my very first smartphone. It was, as a matter of fact, the phone was an HTC Dream. Most of you know of this phone as the HTC G1. And it was a good phone with all its half gig of RAM and its VGA camera and its micro USB charger that was... It wasn't micro, it wasn't mini, it was... However, it's ironic enough that that particular USB cable does power my Blue Yeti microphone. So, there is that. So, I had 2 G1s, my wife owned one and I owned one. And I started tinkering a little bit then. I decided not to. So I had been complaining and hollering about an upgrade almost since the day I had the phone. I was a dispatcher for a cab company, and quite frankly, the phone could have never kept up ever. So the next phones we got were two of the Galaxy Vibrants. I'm talking the Galaxy Vibrant 4G and the 4G LTE. This was, at the time, it was an awesome phone to go to because, quite frankly, the iPhones were priced so damn high and I wasn't going to touch it. But at the same time, it was a good alternative, and I went with it. So when I had the Galaxy Vibrant, about that time, my lovely wife, who happens to be bipolar, and we'll cover some more about that later on because I'm kind of curious if any of my audience has bipolar disorder. What applications do you use to help? Because quite honestly, there are a few applications that I use. I've found none of them that really work to my satisfaction. And if you do have a spouse, husband, wife, brother, sister, if you have anybody that suffers through this, you have my extended sympathy, and you also have my hope in the process, because it's not a very easy thing to deal with. It is not a very easy thing to put up with. But I digress. We'll go back to the subject at hand. Had a Galaxy S2. This is the time where I said, okay, I know this phone can do better. And I know that Android is kind of being a little bit lazy on their updates. So I decided more or less at that point that I was going to modify my phone to the way I wanted it. And modifying phones the way that you want it to do, number one, it's not always practical. Number two, it's not always safe. So take this piece of advice from me, and I hesitate to say that I might be able to speak for a lot of forum members on XDA developers. If you are going to root your phone, if you're going to put a custom ROM on your phone, if you're going to put a cracked APK on your phone in hopes that it does better, and you have any questions in your head as to whether or not you should go from point A to B to C, don't do it. Reason being is the phones they have nowadays, you can put A to B to D, miss C, and you're borked. Your phone, at the very least, is going to turn into a soft brick, which you can fix by a complete phone reset, or you can completely hard brick it if you're in a panic and you download the wrong files. And I literally mean the wrong files, and that's not something that's really, really hard to do. The phone that was the best to be able to take that kind of abuse and come back at you would be the Galaxy S4. So that was great to deal with. So, but what I recommend specifically is take the phone that you were given, okay, and study that particular phone. It's not going to be all that difficult to use at all. It really isn't. So get the phone that you're comfortable with using, make use of it, and make sure that it works for you. And don't let me or don't let anybody else tell you, hey, buy this phone because of this, buy this phone because of that. The thing about buying a phone anymore, it used to be, yeah, people would come in and they would want the Samsungs, and they would want this, and they would want that, and everybody was like, okay, well, I guess we're going to have to do this. That's not always the case, folks. I have a lot of people that, quite frankly, they weren't comfortable in using that. And that's fine. No one should have to use a phone that they are not comfortable with. I have a lot of my listeners that email me, Ed, I use the HTC One M8 or the One M9, or I use an iPhone 5C. If you have an iPhone 5C, personally, I want to give you a hug because I know you've been ripped. You wanted an iPhone, and that was the only one that was available, and you took it. And I'm sorry for you. I really am. I think you probably should have never gotten it, but that's just me, okay? And we get phones that we don't want all the time. It happens to the best of us. So there is that. So anyway, I had the Galaxy S2, actually turned to be the Epic Touch 4G, which was the Sprint version of that phone. And it wasn't a bad phone. I liked it a lot. Did not have any issues with it at all whatsoever. Actually thought it worked really, really well. And lo and behold, you think it's fixed. And sometimes it would work. Sometimes it would work a whole lot better than anyone ever thought. But then again, every once in a while, you had phones that just totally sucked. The best thing on the suckage department would be, unfortunately, don't choke me on this one, Mr. Mobile. I know it's one of your favorites. It's the Moto X. And it would be the Moto X, the first gen Moto X, along with the second gen Moto X. I didn't like either one of them. And that's being not so nice. The battery life for them sucked. It didn't have a camera, in my personal opinion. I mean, yeah, the camera app worked. Had no real issue, but it didn't work. It sucked hind end bad. Battery life was horrific. And it was just like, okay, well, I'll put it with it for now. And, eventually that stuff's going to turn around and it's going to bite you. So my piece of advice, if you want a phone, get one that works right for you. Don't get it because we say it's the best. Don't get it because we tell you to. Get the phone that's right for you and use it. It's not going to be the end of the world if you get a phone. As long as it works for you, don't get a phone that's top end by all means. So you go from the Samsung Vibrant 4G to the Epic Touch 2, which is basically this Galaxy S2. This is when I got into rooting and ROMing. Yeah, ROMing. Now that makes sense. Rooting and ROMing. I got into it pretty big there. Okay. So that was relatively fun to do, except for a couple of things. Number one, what used to get me was, hey, my phone works this great, it operates this build, and I used to use OmniROM quite a bit. And, a lot of people liked that too. And it was like, okay, well, this is what I'm using. Great, awesome. So the biggest problem that I had in the meantime was just simply it would work and then it would not work, because of course if you use something that a developer uses, it's not going to always have the support that is necessary. Hey, it's no skin off me, and it's not that big of an issue for me. I know how to fix that issue. But what used to crack me up, and I think they still do this even, they come out and they put what's known as I'm just going to call it like this. They come out and they put bloatware on the phone. And it's kind of like, why are you paying $5 a flippin' month through Big Red, let's just say, you do. And Google Maps have that exact same service for free. For effing free. Okay? if you don't know how to disable apps, biggest piece of advice, go to Android Central, go through their forums. They will tell you how to do it. Go to XDA forums. They will tell you how to do it. One of the guys running XDA forums, very respected person in my world. His name is Brandon Miniman. I think he runs that over there. Don't quote me on that. But they will help you. They really will help you. Just don't, when you try to get the help, don't act stupid. Because if you do that, they're going to gag on you, and then they're going to just block you. And, if you ask for help in a polite and good way, you're not going to have any issues from them at all. So there's that. And so I had no issues with the Epic Touch whatsoever. And then I had to switch companies. Family issues was pretty much what did it. Frida was starting to her bipolar needed treatment. They have pretty much exhausted the medication options for it, and she had to go this is about as deep in as I've let anybody go, so I figured, F it. I mean, you guys are my listeners. If you can't trust me, who can you trust at this point? My wife has bipolar type 1, and her medication options were exhausted about a year and a half ago, and ever since then, we had to make some adjustments. She went underneath what's called ECT, which is electroconvulsive therapy. Now, if anybody listening to my voice, if you've had that treatment, I feel wholeheartedly for you, man, or ma'am, whatever the case may be, because it's not easy. And for those of you who are listening to me that are married to somebody with bipolar, my heart also goes out to you. You are a heck of a person for putting up with quite a lot. And for us, it doesn't seem to be that way. It doesn't seem like that we're putting up with a lot. But if you look at it from the outside, they see everything. And, I understand sometimes it's not the easiest thing for us to do. But at the same time, if we were able to get a hold of, all the problems in life and we crossed those bridges, this is a bridge we can cross too. So, if you have somebody that happens to be afflicted with bipolar type 2 or bipolar type 1, and you actually use tech or happen to use information as far as apps go or anything like that to assist you in that, by all means, send me an email, show@techfiles.com. I might even devote an entire episode to that. Because when I say it's not been easy, it's not been easy. My last job was working I'll just go ahead and say it. My last job was working for a group called Wireless Toys, which wasn't the main company I worked for, but they were the people who gave me the chance to get there. The company I worked for was Metro PCS. I do not work for Metro PCS right now. If circumstances ever changed to the point of where I started to do that stuff again, I will let you know that. And those devices that come out for Metro PCS, I will not review on this channel in any way, shape, form, or fashion. I do have a Patreon page, okay? If you're interested in donating or helping out as much as you can, I have a Patreon page. The quickest way to get to it would be www.patreon.com and just look up Tech Files, TEKFILES. The account is pretty much in place. I'm still working to do the final touches, but it's there. And my hope is, what I did is I did this under bet. Somebody bet me that I respect a whole lot. Somebody bet me that I could not do a podcast without the use of a laptop PC computer. I know how to do podcasts by laptop PCs. I did that for off and on for a while. And then I get to iOS, and it's like, oh, I bet you can't do the same thing. Oh, yes, I can. Thanks to Spreaker, I'm able to do that. Thanks to Spreaker, I'm able to stay on top of the business as much as I possibly can and get my wife treated at the same time. And I won't go too far into that except to say I have the best spouse in the world. That's the way I think of that. Other than that, I for everyone that's going through that, I wish you nothing but the best. I really, really do. And it means a lot to us that you go through the best as well. And take care of what you need to take care of. This, we'll always have this. Our marriage is our marriage. And it is defined by many, many things. So, take heed. Take it with a lump of salt or a lump of coal. It's all up to you. Personally, it's, as of this point to me, it's more or less like, okay, here's another day. For some of you, it may not be so much. It just depends on how far it goes into. I've been married once before. They were also bipolar, but the problem is they never underwent medication, and that marriage ended pretty much not because of anything physical or not, well, it was, but not with anything physical and not with anything with finances. She decided the best way that she could argue any particular case was pretty much a punch in the face. I have a scar to prove it. I wasn't going to put up with it. That was the last straw. And some of you might. I can't. I went through that once. I'm not going to go through that again. But I digress. Phones are a beautiful way to, and getting in technology is an awesome way to deal with that situation, because one thing that I have always tried to find out anyway is how using tech, smartphones, tablets, anything like that, how that will bring you out of a certain funk that you're in, basically, or a certain funk that she's in, and just to alleviate the situation, make everything right again, and to make your life easier, more or less. And I'm not, and this in no way is supposed to be any kind of a swan song. This is just a part of my day and a part of my life, and this is what I go through. I used to work for T-Mobile, Metro PCS, worked with a great bunch of guys. I shouldn't have left the way I did, but at the time I felt like I had no choice, only to step into Sprint. And once again, Sprint, I have no issue with you as a company in particular, in specifics. One of your dealers in particular doesn't really need to have a badge license. And that's just the way that's going to be. I would definitely go to work for Sprint in a heartbeat again if I needed to. The problem is I would not ever work for that manager again. So, and on top of that, I'm not going to say it, but they were very, 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 very close. She's a veteran, so they were very close to violating her rights, and I had to make a stand. It was either, do the things that I knew how to do and do well, which was I was making pretty decent money doing it. It's just their personal relations sucked. You had an issue with your schedule and you gave plenty of notice to what you thought was going to happen. And they would just simply, they would simply set a schedule and they would ask you nothing. And if you had a problem with that schedule, then you're good with it. And they wouldn't negotiate, they wouldn't talk, they wouldn't work around the fact that I have a wife that has a sickness that has to be taken care of. And the one nightmare scenario almost happened while I was at work, and that was my wife. God bless her. Like I said, I've got the best wife in the world. She had an issue one night, and let's just say it involved medication, and I had to be home as fast as I could. And I was nearly terminated for that. And part of me kind of wishes they had, because, you know, I could have turned it into a real bad scene, and I just decided not to. I said, best thing for me to do at that particular point was walk away. And slowly but surely, it steered me around to, well, you know, I want to get back. I want to get into the industry again. I haven't been away from it, really. I've been looking at that news every day. But this podcast is designed to make you, the audience, feel better about smartphones, smartphone technology, and technology in general. And hopefully what I want to do eventually is to get you guys hands-on and up to the minute reviews of some of the top devices in the industry. I would love to dabble with the audio aspect of some of the top headphones in the industry. I would like to do that, but I'm just starting. So don't expect anything major right away. In fact, there will probably be nothing that will be given right away. And I don't expect that. I will say one thing. If for those of you who carry their phones without a case or a screen protector, that's perfectly fine. I've got a place in San Antonio I would send you to fix it. Wireless Toys. If you ever get around Bandera Road in San Antonio, look up Wireless Toys. Real good guy over there. He gave me my first chance at it. His name's Dinesh. Just walk in, talk to him or any of his family. They'll be able to help you in any way they can. And who knows, if circumstances are changing, there might be one particular day where I might be back there. So, I don't know. But, yeah, cell phones have done me a lot of good since 2008. I would hope that they have done you a lot of good since 2008. But at the same time, I also know there's some things that we wish we had and we don't. And my job is to make things easier for you to adjust to a cell phone if you've just recently gotten one. My job is also to explain some of the more unexplainable things that do happen in our industry. If any sales rep is in the sound of my voice, by all means, show@techfilesmedia.com. Email me, tweet me. I'll be more than happy to help you. I really, really will. And hopefully everything will work itself out. Just got to give, more or less, you have to give things time and ways to pan themselves out. You really, really do. And I hope that works for you. You know, I really do. I hope everything works out. I hope everyone eventually gets a phone that they like, with the screen put in correctly, and that everything will turn out to be for the best in the end. So, guys, I went further on this than I possibly expected to go. I am sorry. I just felt like I needed to give you kind of my origin story a little bit. Kind of wanted to give you as to what made me, what I'm made of, what I aim to provide you, and what I won't stop doing. And that is providing you with the best service and advice that I can. And so, thank you for those who have listened, who have gone on this ride so far. If you have any questions or comments, either leave me an email, show@techfiles.com. Leave me a review, no matter where you catch this podcast from. Whether it's Stitcher, whether it's digitalpodcast.com, tunein.com. We're still working for iHeartRadio. Hopefully we'll have that wrapped up by the beginning of next week here. I am available on iTunes, Google Play Music, Pocket Cast. I am also available through Spreaker, who happens to be not only a podcatcher, but they are our hosts. And I do pay a plan to enable me to have this feature, so I can contact you. You know, I could put out a podcast 7 days a week if I wanted to. That would run 3 hours a piece at a time if I wanted to. So my wish is to eventually get this thing expanded my hope is to get our co-host hooked up, linked in, and running within the next 7 days. Looks like that's hit a temporary snag, but it's not going to slow us down. It's not going to slow me down. I'm here for you. So, if anybody is interested and they even want to, come on and have a chat, send me an email. It may not be right around the time of the podcast, but send me an email. I'll chat with you on Hangouts if you need me to. We'll just do it so we can have an interview and I can put it in. I want you to make your opinions and your voices heard, because you get a lot of people, and I'm not naming names on this because, quite honestly, I have seen the first inspiration that I have for doing this at all is two companies in particular, and you won't be surprised by either one of them. One of them would be Pocket Now. The second one would be the Vergecast. Those are my two favorite podcasts. I will listen to them no matter what. The person who most influenced me on starting a podcast would be Michael Fisher. You know him as Mr. Mobile. The last podcast he did was actually Friday because Pocket Now celebrated the 5 years worth of their podcast. Good going, by the way, guys. We're happy for you over here at Tech Files Media. Who knows? One day I'll be a guest over there. But only when we have all of our stuff in one sock. That's my hope. But I want to make sure that you guys are taken care of. I want to make sure you guys get the advice and the guidance and the opinions that I feel you need. You may not agree with me. When you don't agree with me, let me know, please. I will answer any questions. I will answer any comment, whether it's positive or negative. If it's negative, I'll say thank you and I'll try to adopt it if it makes sense. So, guys and girls, I thank you very much for inviting me into your home today. We didn't have a light news day, but I felt like I needed to get this origin story out a little bit. So, you can catch me on the Patreon page. Look up Tech Files on Patreon. From what I'm understanding, they would like me to check into a couple other crowdfunder sources. So, apparently somebody likes what I do. And I like being with you guys too. The tech community is an awesome community to be a part of. They're very helpful in time of need. And here's another guy that I highly respect. And as a matter of fact, he was the one that finally convinced me that I could do what I had planned on doing. And his name is Scott Webster. He is the editor-in-chief for AndroidGuys.com. Chris, I'm sorry, I'm going to butcher your last name. Kulik. He resides out in California. He is the editor-in-chief for AndroidHeadlines.com. Those are where I have my starts. And it just went from there. So, but guys and girls, thank you very much for bringing me into your homes tonight. If you have any questions, comments, or business inquiries, leave me an email at show, SHOW, at techfiles, TEKFILESMEDIA.com. The website right now is a redirect. It will direct you right to my homepage for the podcast. That will actually have its own site, I would say, no later than the end of next week. The only reason it's holding that up is because technically this was originally started as a 3-day-a-week podcast. And depending on how news warranted it, and I've jumped it from 3 to 5, mostly 4, sometimes 5 a week. So that's just the way I am. The only thing that someone told me that I wanted perfection and I wasn't satisfied until I could achieve it. So, but I'm also realistic. I know that you guys are just listening to me at first, wanting to know how much I'm trusted and making sure I'm not talking out of my rear. And then we'll have the responses. So take your time. trust me or not. Even if you don't, send me an email, send me a tweet. I'll be more than happy to respond to you. But anyhow, I've taken long enough. Thank you very much for allowing me into your homes on this wonderful night or this wonderful day, wherever you are, anywhere around the world. Do two things. Get a phone that you're comfortable with, and by all means, stay classy. We're going to leave you as I started you from. Guys and girls, have a good night. Have an awesome weekend. And if no other broadcasts are going to be coming out, we will talk to you all once again on Monday. If you want a live episode, let me know. Until then, stay classy.